I get shit done, I have fun, it's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, hello yesterday, whatever time of the day it is when you're watching this, welcome. This is another episode of the Business Renovator. Today's topic is sales are at the heartbeat of the business. Sales are at the heartbeat of the business. So I have the pleasure of having several guests on today, and we're going to have a conversation about selling, sales. Is it important? Why do we need to do it? Is it not important? Etc. But before we do that, if you're watching this live with us today, thank you for being with us right now in this moment. If you have a question about or a comment about selling, sales, etc., please post it in the area that you're in, and we'll do our best to respond to it immediately. And if not, we'll follow up with a reply to it later on. If you're watching this on the replay, go hashtag replay. Let us know where you're watching it from. And if you saw value in this, share it with your friends. Let them know about the Business Renovator channel, where we focus on sales, marketing, and mental fitness. Well, let's get on with the show. So I'm going to do a shameless plug for my business. So here it comes. Wait, it's about 60 seconds. Well, there you have it. If you have a question around business, you know how to do it. The information's there. Just go to the website, fill out the assessment, and you'll get some answers to your questions. And if you have more, you can reach out and have a conversation. Complimentary coaching session, no credit card required. So I have 4 guests. One's not here yet, but I'm going to give her a plug anyway, because it was her bio that I actually took the title of. Sales are at the heartbeat of the business. So joining me today will be Mickey Mikeworth, Joe Norcott, Connie Kadansky, and Steve Lowry. All of us are in sales in one way, shape, or form. So I'm going to bring up everybody. Let's go with the right to the left. Hello and welcome, everybody. Good to see you. Mickey, do you want to start it off and just do a quick, intro as to who you is and why you're here?
My name is Mickey Mikeworth, and I have dedicated my life to prosperity. I wrote the prosperity business model, which is kind of fun, and I'm a math geek. So sales is right where I like to be. It has numbers.
Cool.
It has numbers.
Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Norcott. I am with Business Technologies in New England, as well as Norcott Business Growth, working with clients to take their sales process and marketing processes and automate them as well.
Excellent. Let's throw the ball to Steve Lowry, who I've known for 9 years or so now?
Yeah, good morning. Steve Lowry, I'm with the Master Group. I'm a regional sales director in Ottawa, Canada. We distribute and sell and service anything to do with heating, air conditioning, refrigeration, and any sort of air movement.
Excellent. And I'm Coach Phil. I'm your host. And I'm hoping our other guest, Connie, will be able to join us as soon as she's able to. But in the meantime, who wants to start it off? About what is selling? What is sales? Why is it important? Or is it?
Who wants to jump in?
Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Right.
All right.
You just self-nominated, Steve.
Yeah,
this is self-nomination.
Dead air is awful. Just jump in, guys.
All right. I'll start. Basically, for me, sales is something where It's important that it makes the company run. And without sales, there's really no company. So it is the heartbeat. And that's really the main point of what we're talking about today. Um, there should be policies and procedures in place for how to do your sales based on the type of products and services. Some people are lucky, they get sold right away. Others take over a year to sell, especially in the medical industry. So it all depends on the type of industry you're in and basically the processes that you're going to use. But if everybody starts following them, they'll start all seeing results together because it's also a team approach.
Excellent. Who wants to go next?
Well, I agree with Joe. In the HVAC business, we sell to all the contractors. We sell to homeowners, property management companies as well. And without selling, we're not making any money, and we're not feeding all of our employees. So the importance, I'll back up a little bit. During COVID, we had a little bit of extra time where a lot of people worked from home, and we created playbooks. So we have a playbook for every different aspect of our business, right? And then we've also gotten involved with some focal point sales coaching over the last 6 or 7 years that help take all of our people up to a next level top salespeople. So as Joe said, this policies and procedures, we're no different in the HVAC business than anybody else. There's the trusting, the bond, rapport, work on that, develop that. And, we're solution providers in our industry. And when you land a sale, that's it's like winning the lottery. And that's what drives most of us is winning that final sale.
Cool. Sorry, I'm doing some stuff in the background, but Mickey.
Well, I like, as a business consultant, I'm a consultant. So what I like about what everyone else said is that, right, policies and procedures, you've got to have a system. You've got to have a system. You've got to have a system. And as a consultant, my system has to start right here with me. And so I had to build a system that made me excited to come to work every day, that didn't feel crummy. And so I had to really decide who, we describe it as core customer. For me, I made it, who are the yummy, amazing people that I want to hang out with? And really look at that as dialing for dollars. So it is to say, let me call the people that I like the most, that I want to work with, that are doing things I believe in, and how can I support them? And really letting them know how I could support them, and decide if they want that, right? So it's one thing, is there anything in my brain that can be helpful to you as a consultant? And then, do you even need my help? So sales is a big deal.
Sales is a big deal. I was writing notes here as I was dancing in the background. We have another guest. I want to bring her on. I don't want to leave her out on the clouds. Let's bring Connie on right now. I know she can hear what we're doing. So I'm going to add Connie. Hi, Connie.
Hi there.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Quick intro as to who you is and what you do, and like it's your 60-second commercial.
I help salespeople get their ask in gear. It's all about asking. And I know that we have people on today that are how and what people, that tell people how and what to do. I'm the who coach that helps people integrate the how and the what in a confident way.
Excellent. So what we're talking about right now is sales important? If so, why? What's your thoughts about that? Well, you got the mic, Connie.
Well, the world is driven by sales. Nothing happens until somebody buys something or something gets sold. And so I think it's a very exciting business. I also think it's getting more challenging, and it requires salespeople to up their skills. I don't care how many years they've been in the business. It's time to up level their skills.
That is excellent stuff, everybody. I agree. I think sales is significant. Without the transaction happening, nothing gets done, right? I think it's the oldest profession in the world. Some would dispute that and say it's another trade, but in order to get that trade activated, you have to sell somebody on something. So selling was really the oldest business out there, in my opinion. Who would like to say what you like about the sales process or the selling world? Who would like to jump on and talk about that?
Well, I'll jump on about why I like sales and so forth. And as you know, for those who are new to me, I book a year in advance, so I know who I'm talking to a year ago. So sales for me, I also had to know my limitation. I sell my time. And so if I run out of time, I run out of the ability to make a sale. So I very much focus on making sure that we have appointments, making sure that the gears are running, because I also have people to pay. And so knowing my sales in advance is really helpful. It's really helpful. So sales for me is an appointment on the books.
Appointment on the books. I like that.
So we call it dialing for dollars. So
yeah, I like that too. I actually I have something, and I don't have it here in front of me at the moment, but I have a sticker. It says my ATM machine. It's on the phone, for the phone, right? Just having conversations. It's not to pitch. I hate the word pitch, unless of course we're playing footy in Europe or baseball, right? And we want to deceive somebody. I don't think we're in the business of deceit, are we? No, we're in the business of serving and showing up. Joe, you look like you wanted to jump in and add to that.
Well, again, it's right. I'm actually also selling consulting and coaching as well. I mean, just because I can help somebody automate it, it's still the question I always ask is, again, going back to the procedures, the policies, because the system needs to work the way they do business. And it's something that I find is lacking. There's a lot of, they just all go out and they do their own thing, and they just let me know on a Friday what's going on. And one time, I actually worked with they sold, photo machines, photocopy machines, and printers. And every Friday, they would have the whole sales team come into the office in the morning and sit around while they all have to do reports. I looked at the owner and I said, "I see you're losing money." I said, "What do you mean?" It's because you got them all sitting here every Friday morning doing reports, and they don't get out of here till mid-afternoon. And pretty much on a Friday, it's pretty much done. You're not going to get too much business after 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, "You're losing money, and you really need something here that can take the policies and procedures and, in this case, automate it, so they can be working Friday morning, because you can appoint them." So that's really part of it.
Yeah. So going back to what somebody said, you need a system. It's not just by I guess a lot of people do work just by I don't like to get organized because I just like to wing it. So how does winging it? I see Connie shaking her head. No winging. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, absolutely. And what I find is, and what Joe said is, you can have an automatic marketing system. However, that 70% of the sale is engagement and discovering the need. And so there, in the industries I work in, people need to talk to their prospect. And I don't care how seasoned they are, they need to be prepared for that conversation. I had a seasoned salesperson that lost a $15 million deal and when we were reviewing it, he said, "He didn't tell me X," meaning his prospect. And I said, "Well, that's one perspective. He didn't tell you. What's another one?" And it was like the salesperson wasn't present enough to ask a question to elicit that information. And so I actually believe a salesperson's number one job is to listen.
And I agree. I wrote down. I like how you. How do you say you get salespeople to get their ask in gear?
Right.
I suggest that they all become really big ask holes. WHOLE, and ask. I got this from Jack Canfield. So if you want to give dirty looks to somebody, it's his fault. But I think it really jars your preserves, because if we're not asking, how would we know that? Oh, well, they never told me that. Well, it's not their job to tell us, is it? It's our job to seek to understand. I like equating that to being a tourist looking for directions.
No.
Even if you know the answer, you still ask the question to get clarity as to, does it resonate with them? Is it important or not? Right?
Yeah, agree. Typically, the one asking the questions is typically in control of the conversation. So if your objective is to learn as much about that prospect or what they're looking for, and you continue to ask questions until you get all the information that you require. And once you have all that, then you can get ready to move on to the next step. But without asking that question, you're not sure what you're there for, right?
Yeah, the old, well, it's not even that old. I think there's still some people who are not professional, and they like to tell you enough, and selling is not telling, and they throw enough crap on the wall, and they hope that some sticks and you'll buy their services. But that's not how it works, right? Mickey is asking Connie, could you repeat the statement around 70%? Could you tell us more about that?
Yes, 70% of the sale is discovering the need of the prospect and engaging them and discovering their need. And so what I find, salespeople, they discover one need and they jump on the hero and they go, we can do that. We can solve that for you. They're becoming fixers. They're listening to fix and not listening for meaning. And it's kind of like, well, tell me more about that. Share what is prompting this right now. And you know what else the salespeople are missing is curiosity. Curiosity is an emotion. And that curiosity is so vital. And it's learning how to ask those questions like Columbo. Remember the detective from years ago? He could get people to divulge anything because he created that psychological safe space. He was casual and he invited disclosure, and that's a skill.
I totally agree with the point about a number of points you're talking about there, Connie. One is it's emotional. Some people have argued with me, the logical thinkers, but even as I hang out with them and learn more about them, they're emotional too. So we're 100% emotional, backed up with 100% logical. So we emotionally make the transition from where we are today to where we want to be, and we justify it with logic, all the reasons why we did what we did. And being curious is, if you're not curious as a professional seller, you're in trouble, I think. You need to be fascinated and curious at the same time. And the curiosity creates the opportunity to be open to listen and ask great questions, to get clarity as to what's going on in the mind of the people we're trying to serve. Because we want to find out if we're a good fit. We might not be a good fit, right? And if we ask questions, that'll let us know if we can help them or we need to introduce them to somebody else.
Well, I'll just say one more thing, and then I definitely want to hear from the other guests, is that we are feeling creatures who think. We are not thinking creatures who feel. Even if you're talking to the CEO of a multi-global organization, they are feeling creatures who think. And I think salespeople try to come at this from a more logical fixing place than a more listening for meaning place. And that's where the skill that needs to be developed.
I agree.
And I like that, actually, based on our theme today, right? The heart of selling.
Yeah, so that was not my creativeness, although I do leverage things because there's not enough time in a lifetime to start from ground zero. So when I see a great idea, I just leverage it. I didn't steal it. I leveraged it, and I'm going to give kudos to the person I leveraged it from. That was from Connie. It was right in her copy, and I thought, well, that's brilliant. What a great headline for our panel today. So I thank you for your brilliance, Connie. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm going to say Mickey has inquired on this playbook. So this playbook. So we're again an HVAC distributor. So we
And
deal
can you
with.
tell our listeners, like, what is a playbook? Like, what is that?
So we run two different sides of a business here. We work with the engineering community, and we also work with the contractors. So the playbook that we have written is a step-by-step process on how to meet and search for that new dealer, what questions to ask, when to listen, take that information that you've gained, determine whether you want to move forward working with that particular contractor or not. Will they fit with the company and with their mission and vision? And then, after you've spent, it probably takes a few different meetings and conversations to get all of that data. And then the next step is to come back with a bit of a proposal on, these are some of the tools that we have for you that can help develop your business and take you to the next level, right? So the playbook is, whenever we bring in a new salesperson, we run through the playbook with them, and we ask them to try to follow the step-by-step process. People that don't have a policy, a procedure, a plan, as Phil said earlier, I'm just going to walk in and wing this, they're not going to go very far. So if you have structure, basically a playbook to follow, it's going to give you the structure to get you from point A to point B, up until the point where you've either successfully closed on a deal, or you've hired a new customer, contractor, you've completed a design with an engineer. But without that, you're not going anywhere. Like, it's just it's a roll the dice, and roll the dice only gets you so far. So that's what we use this book for. It's a step-by-step process on how to close the deals.
And how did you guys come up with that?
Well, we got to a point probably 10, 12 years ago where we were losing some customers, and we couldn't figure out why. So we started sitting down and asking questions and putting ourselves into a contractor's pair of shoes and say, okay, why would this contractor leave and go to somebody else? Well, it turns out we weren't providing the value. We were winging it, as Phil said, and that only gets you to a certain, let's call it a sales growth area, and we had plateaued. And of course, we all have a boss, and the boss wants more. So in order to get more, we had to learn, what does that customer want? How could I provide enough value to get that customer to stay with us and not give them the opportunity to go looking somewhere else? So if we can provide all the value to make their life easy, develop their business, take them to another level, then they have no real reason to leave you and go and work with somebody else. Whereas previous to that, we were not doing that. And that's where the playbook came in.
Cool. What I like about what you're saying there is it encapsulates a number of things we've already been talking about. And you didn't rest on your laurels. You figured that there were some things that were not working, and you went and did a discovery again as to doing what Connie's talking about, and being like Columbo, and asking more questions to find out what was going on. So I really like that idea.
I love the why did they leave, right? Why didn't I make the sale? Why did they choose someone else? That's brilliant.
And you know what I like is you stepped into your contractor's shoes.
Yeah.
And looked at it from their viewpoint, and were able to discover that.
Yeah. Empathy. Isn't that interesting? It's really important, right? Being an empathetic listener.
Extremely important. Yes.
Right.
Because listening is half of that skill, right? Ask and listen, ask and listen, ask and listen, right? Ask.
And when you go back to what Connie was talking about, 70% of the time, it's we need to see, hear, and confirm what they're talking about and how they're feeling about it, right?
It's a
Some
triangle
people,
that dictates that, right?
yeah, some people think that if they send an email after they've had a presentation, the emotion's still there. It's not. It's vaporized. They're on to the next thing. They've got busy lives. If you've got something that you're selling, we need to be belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball, or at least on a phone or a video call. Right? We need to have a conversation. That's, I think, anyway. What do you guys think?
I agree. I mean, it's you have to meet them. A lot of times in my environment, I'll end up speaking maybe sometimes to the sales manager or the business owner or the marketing manager up in advance. And when I put together with them a discovery session, I'll come in and meet with them. It's interesting what they thought, well, say the key person I've been talking to thinks that the company wants. What does management want? And with the other people in the room, instead of doing, if I got called in for Zoho, CRM, or ACT software, I'm not there to do a demo. I'm there to find out all about them. And I listen and put it together to find out, will one of these products work for them? And how could it work? But it really opens up a conversation where they're all in the same room talking about what they want and what are going to be the results at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month that they want to see. So that's what gets them all involved. And they hadn't had one of those all in the same room conversations. So, yeah.
Cool. Did you see Mickey's question in there? She would like to hear a little bit more about the procedures you're using. Can you go just a little bit deeper? Not into the weeds, but a higher level overview of what you do in terms of.
Right. Well, first of all, I haven't met everybody, so obviously go find out what they're doing, and then find out a little bit about what are they expecting in the way of results. I'll have people in from manufacturing, the manufacturing manager. They'll want to know, as an example, what do I need to know if we're working on some big deals that I might have to purchase product in advance to make sure we're ready to go, that we can manufacture for the new customer or existing customer. So again, it's all a matter of looking at it and saying, okay, we're all on a team together, and that's how I approach it. So.
Cool, thanks for that, Mickey. You posed another question, so I'm going to get you to start to answer your own question.
Can I go back to Joe for a second?
Okay.
There was something I found fascinating that I think all of our viewers would really enjoy, which is that you had really talked about kind of standard operating procedures, right? The SOPs. You must have, like Steve did, right? Here's how we have this playbook. You wrote some procedures on how are we gonna talk to our salespeople? Like, how are we going to do these sales? What can you give me a little more on that?
On the operating procedures, it's first of all, what are theirs? And then how, for me, I'm trying to find out what it is that they have for procedures. What is it that they're challenged with? And that's where I'm taking it. I think
so where the customer's operating procedures are.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Or do they even have one?
That's the other thing. A lot of times they don't.
They're winging it.
Yeah.
That your customer is winging it, so you have to kind of find that out.
Yeah.
Right. I have one who told me one day, I'm just going to throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. And I'm going, you're going to have a mess on the wall.
Yeah, but they won't be hungry. But
Yeah, can I expand also on what Joe's just talking about? And I learned it from a top producer that sold books to schools. And the only way she could get in the door was talking to the superintendent. And what the reason she was so successful is she thought about the end user, the children reading the books. And so she made that part of her conversation, even though the superintendent was the buyer, bringing in the end user that was going to benefit by her books and the publishing company's books. And she was the one that was just number one.
Oh, you know what I like about that? I'm writing notes and pushing buttons, so I get lost in the minutia. But what I like about you're saying there is I think there's three kind of buyers in the whole process. And that is the superintendent who actually gives permission to get the money transferred. It's the end user, the students who are reading the book, and there could be somebody else in the middle. In this case, maybe there isn't, but in many cases, there would be the money people, the person approves the spending of the money, and the end user, right? So in my case, actually, Steve, that would be you. You don't get to spend the money, right? You get to make recommendations. It takes it to another level. They put the okay on it, and then finance releases the funds. So there's a triad of people. It's not just people. There's a triad of groups, depending on the size of the entity, right?
Correct.
And sometimes that could be one person. They do all of that if it's a small enough organization. But that's a great point. I like you. Glad you brought that up.
And how to include them in the sales conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's another piece that that our viewers would really appreciate is, right, how do you bring in all of the entities in the sales cycle?
Yeah.
That's
by asking questions, isn't it?
Yeah. But what an eye opener, right? That we don't all make decisions on our own.
No, we don't. And being respectful and being a Columbo and all of the things we're hearing today, plus there's other things we probably add to that as well. Maybe even creating your own playbook from start to finish to make sure that you know where you're going. You could call it a playbook, a map, whatever you want to do. I like the playbook concept. Systematize your business, maybe automate some of it, not to take away from the selling side, but that's a technical piece to support you along the way, right? I'm just trying to recap all the things you guys have thrown up already so that so I gained some benefits as well as the audience as well.
Well, there's a lot to take notes on. This is a brilliant group. This is a brilliant group. So, it's easy to take notes. I did put another question in the side comment, but how, this is a random question. How did you guys all meet Phil? Joe, I'll start with you. How'd you meet Phil?
I met Phil through a coaching program, and we got to know each other. And I also found out later that he was involved with Focal Point, which I was involved in working with their operations to use one of our systems, Zoho CRM. So 2 different places I ran into Phil. And then we started, we've met up in San Diego, we've met in Cancun on some conferences. And so that's how we met.
Wow. Steve, how did you meet Phil?
Well, goes back, 10 years ago, approximately.
And that range.
As I was saying, we were, I manage a sales team for residential products as well. And we were winging it, and we were starting to lose customers. And this is where we sat down and we started brainstorming and, what can we do? And there was a past employee that worked with us that has been in the industry for many years. And he had branched out and started trying to do some developing products, aligning himself with other companies on specifically how to build a residential business and be profitable. So marketing, sales, training, the whole 9 yards. Well, I ended up giving him a call, and I sat down with him for a couple of hours, and I said, here's my problem. I'm looking for some help. So after a few hours, he's like, I think I might be able to give you a hand. And then we had an introduction to Coach Phil. And then so we sat and we chatted on and off for probably 6 months to a year, worked out a bit of a game plan. It took me a little while to convince my boss to give me some funds. And once I got those funds, we had Coach Phil into Ottawa. And we did a coaching program for 6 years now. So we would do a 6-month program, step by step with all of our sales team, which eventually got into our managers, which got into our over-the-counter sales team. Now we're branched out into Toronto. Coach Phil has done 2 programs now out in Calgary for us. So yeah, it's gone from a quick little introduction to he's doing a lot of work for the whole company now.
Wow.
It's been fun. It's
Great.
they're a fairly substantial player in their space across Canada, and they're actually infiltrated the U.S. And my intention is to help them maintain the philosophy and help them with their own great culture as they move forward.
Wow. And Connie, how did you meet Phil?
Oh, I just want to say, Phil, what a lovely testimonial.
Yeah.
Music to your ears.
Yeah.
Phil reached out to me a few years ago because he was working on getting his ask in gear.
That's right.
And we worked together for a short period of time. And then I saw him on doing LinkedIn Lives. And I mean, I come up as Phil Gill, he's on LinkedIn Live. So I reconnected with him and we've developed a lovely relationship. So here we are.
Wow. And I met Phil on LinkedIn as well.
So LinkedIn pays off whether you make money or not. The people you meet are amazing. That's how some of you are, why you're in this room.
Yeah.
Well, that was interesting. Okay, let me bring it back to everybody now. I'm going to go to your next great question, Mickey, that you've posed here. We'll go around this horn. How did you land your favorite and most prosperous sales relationship? And that's prosperous in not just money, but the whole, really love to work with them, right? Raving fans. Connie, you're in my top left, so why don't you just go first?
I was invited to do a presentation for a real estate company a few years ago, and I showed up and 120 people were in the room. And out of that, somebody who was in home warranty sales brought me forward, introduced me to their leadership, and I did workshops throughout Arizona and California for their 80 salespeople. And it just expanded from there. And one of their VPs actually was recruited away to be the CEO of another home warranty company. And now I'm fully integrated into that company also. And so just that little small invitation, it was a marketing invitation. I wasn't paid, and just what has come from there.
Well, that's fantastic. What I like about that is the stick-to-itiveness. Orison Swett Martin says it's our get-to-itiveness and our stick-to-itiveness. And by adding value and being a service to the people you want to hang out with, want to serve, it's paid off quite well by the sounds of it. Joe, you're up next.
Well, basically, when I usually get an inquiry or referral, sometimes people look at me and they think I just have a techie hat. And so when I start talking to them and we start going through what's going on, they're like, you're the first one to say something like this. Everybody else is telling me something else. And they're talking technical. So I like to relate with them and understand. And one of my clients, when I first took that approach, he just said, wow, and ever since then, we've been working together, building the business and growing his business. And that is that's how I try to approach them all. That they're really one of my best customers. So.
Thank you, Joe. Let's go to Steve. Oh, let's bring back Steve. I tried to move you around and I pushed the wrong button. Here we go.
I'm a lot like Joe. As everybody knows, I'm in the HVAC business. And when I started, I worked what we call the counter. So for every piece of equipment we sell, we also back it up with technical support and service parts. So I was a parts person for many years. And you get to gain a lot of trust and bail a lot of people out that are out there repairing and fixing. So I had already learned and gained the trust of a lot of the mechanics in the city. And those mechanics eventually evolved into owning a company or purchased a company. And I was the go-to person, right? So then I had eventually left working the counter and become an outside salesperson. So I had already had those relationships by, one, they could trust. Two, I could find just about anything. I was very fair, and it just made their life so easy. So by having all of that, I've developed some fantastic customers that I really enjoy working with. And for me, it's about finding the best solution and winning that sale. It's not necessarily the dollar value of it for me. It's a job well done, a pat on the back, and moving forward to the next situation.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Mickey, let me move you into the spotlight and you can tell us yours.
Well, for me, I took a different approach there's something called artivism, and it's a kind of an oath that some artists take, that they'll use their skills and their magic for something that only creates good in the world. And so as somebody who's dedicated their life to prosperity, I had to think about what were the people and the projects and the things that were the most meaningful that I wanted to see in my city. I live in a city that has a lot of news coverage in it, that a lot of things have happened here. And so I really have dedicated my life to working on projects that create social change, that create great and vast social change, so that it can be there. So for me, the prosperity is looking at things that deliver something in my community. So one of the things that I'm really proud of is, helping a business grow that is doing over 1 million hours of foot patrol in my city, right? So I try to dedicate myself to things that create great things in the world, that create opportunity and different social change. And
Connie wants to know a deeper dive into
artivism. So artivism is where you take activism as an artist, that you take the art that you create and use it as activism. That is a huge point. So if any of you perhaps heard of something that happened in my city called George Floyd, you saw art really become a huge conversation in activism in general. So when you are an artist, we see this actually with artists all over the world who have chosen to say, I'm only going to use this unique talent that I have to create something that has meaning. So you see this a lot if you've seen, there's an underwater museum that grows coral reefs and is recharging the coral reefs. These are artists who say, I'm going to dedicate my life to saving the oceans. And so I'm only going to use my art for that. So I do the same with my skills, is that I use my skills specifically to create prosperity in the world in places that I want to see more of it.
That's fascinating.
I'm glad you asked the question, Connie, to go a deeper dive. So thank you for that. That is very insightful. Very insightful. Artivism. I've made a note there. trusted advisor. I think all of us have earned the right to be a trusted advisor. That's one of the nuggets that I wrote down. Consult, don't sell. Ask questions, consult, help them solve problems. One of the things that Steve and I have added to his language is that his team and himself are solution providers. They're problem finding, seeking missile kind of people that look for problems that they got a solution for and give you a solution for the problem that you were challenged with. I think that would be true for everybody in this room. I'm looking at the panel here, that we all show up in that way. And if we don't have a solution to the problem, we might know somebody will even without any transference of money, we'll introduce them to somebody else who can serve them better, right? And I think that goes back to why I stole, leveraged, was inspired by Connie's headline, and that is sales are at the heartbeat of the business. And it's the heartbeat, that's the emotional side of things. What else do we want to, what else do you guys want to talk about sales wise? I think it's really an important piece of the puzzle. Without it, nothing gets done. We've already established that. There's a variety of different ways of doing it, but you need to probably have, well, that's bad language, Joe. You should have caught me. I said need. We don't need to do anything, but it's probably a good idea to systematize what it is we're doing. So we've got a playbook approach that helps us along the way. Here's a great question. What skill are you currently developing? That's sponsored by Connie.
Well, there's a term in the sports world called periodization that you zero in on one thing, like a golfer on their putt, and they work only on their putt for a certain period of time. And so what skill are you all currently developing?
Who would like to answer that first?
Well, I will. So I am currently working on a concept called the second brain, and I'm training all my team on it. And it's basically to take a lot of the knowledge. I do a lot of knowledge work. So it's taking all of my knowledge and putting it into systems so that we can use it in many different places. So it's learning to not kind of put things in categories, but kind of packet information so we can draw it out for many different things. I teach a lot. I teach over 60 classes a year. So the concept around second brain is a really big way for us to manage an enormous amount of knowledge and to be able to store it and interface with it and to be able to utilize it differently. So the second brain, that's Tiago Forte. He finally finished his book. So there's a book recommendation there too.
Cool, excellent. Joe, let's go with you.
Well, I guess I'd say I'm bringing back something that I've done with a lot of business owners. We would get together monthly. You could call it a mastermind, group coaching, because the biggest thing about a business owner is he's by himself unless he knows other people he can talk to. And so the idea is to talk about a subject, but also bring about in the sessions things like, what is your challenge? And not only, instead of just listening to me, he's hearing from other business owners who say, we've had something similar to that. This is what we did. This is how we solved it. So that is really, for me, where I'm going back to. I had stepped away from it for a while. So that's what I'm developing.
I like it.
Steve.
Well, for me, I'm constantly working on trying to be that mentor coach to my team. So I'm the regional director, and I'm in between upper management, owners, CFOs, vice presidents, and then my team. So I try to, as a mentor, try to bring the information of where the company is wanting to go and try to guide them in a direction, but have them figure out that direction with all the coaching and the training that we've gone through. So That's, for me, it's a bit of a process. You know, as Coach Phil said, telling is not selling. So I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but I try to guide them as best I can until the light comes on, and then watch them run. So that's what I've been focusing on for the last probably 10 years, is try to be that mentor that they look up to and for guidance. So that's it's been a bit of a process, because before I was always in sales, so I was always selling. So now I'm just trying to inspire them.
Cool. And for me, there's two things. I'm actually working on developing my mental muscle, my mental fitness muscle. So I've dived into another program to extend that. It's mastering that. And Connie's involved with that. Was her connection with me, or my connection with her, whatever that is. She asked me if I'd heard about positive intelligence, and I hadn't at the time. And now I've been involved since originally the latter part of September, and so it's almost a year, and I've just decided to invest more time and money and energy to it because I've seen the impact it's had for me, and so I can share that with my clients and future clients. And working on an awareness program, and I know I touched base with Steve a couple of years ago, but we've got some new things we're adding to it. So I'm learning those new things, and I'm learning the art of selling in a different way. It's combining the marketing side of things and building up crazy, ridiculous value that it's really difficult for people to say no. And being able to show up and serve and help people keep their customers longer. So those are a couple of things I'm working on at the moment. There's probably more, but those are the two hot buttons that I'm focusing on. That's a great question.
And
Well, go ahead.
Can you give me more? What is positive intelligence? The two of you must know this fairly well.
Well, yes, actually, I'll start, and then Connie can fill in the blanks because she's been at it a little bit longer than I have. I've been on this journey probably since high school. How does this thing work without getting a doctorate in it? And when I was talking to Connie about it, and she asked me about positive intelligence, and I hadn't heard of it, she introduced me to this company called Positive Intelligence. And what we're about is helping build, just like you work out your muscles, your body. Well, this thing inside this skull of ours is a muscle. It's the mind, the brain. So we help ourselves and others develop that so that we can live in a state of possibility, solution-oriented, higher energy without going woo-woo, and stay away from that negative voice inside of us that often shows up and tells us we're not big enough, we're too small, we're too short, we're too old, we're too young, we don't have enough money, who are you anyway to do this? Those voices, anybody else have those kind of voices in their head? Well, there is a way not to get rid of them, because they'll never go away, right, Con? But to manage and diffuse them, and then move into another state of mind where we're not Pollyannic, we're not, but we're focused on the solution versus the problem, right? And we need the problem to recognize it, but as Shazad would say, it's like putting your hand on a hot stove. We don't leave it there. We take it off. Oh, ouch, it hurt. What can we do to make it better? It's really helping take the mindset of being a victor over a victim and moving forward with possibility. There's a big push for EQ, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, and that's an important aspect to who we are. But if we don't have a way to fix it, to change it, if we don't have a how, then we can be aware of our EQ, but no change happens, or it's really hard to make the change. So PQ is actually positive intelligence. It's the how to increase our EQ. Connie, you want to add to that?
Who watched the U.S. Open? Anybody you watched the tennis U.S. Open?
I caught bits of it.
Okay, the two winners, a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old that came forward, and they both have performance psychologists. And I see positive intelligence as having a performance psychologist because it has an app that keeps us focused, and it's approaching things from a positive versus a negative, and it trains our brain to have the default emotion being positive. And just like Bill says, it's not Pollyannish. It is absolutely solving our problems from our prefrontal, our executive brain, from allowing our fear brain to make us so we don't have access to our executive brain. So it's taken the world by a storm, and I'm working with pediatricians and salespeople and a variety of people in developing their mental muscle.
And what appealed to me when I got introduced to it by Connie was I had this expression, I want to stop under living. And so this is a way to help me live into my potential and anybody else who I get to work with. That's what it is in a nutshell. There's more to it than that, but it's not complicated for sure. It's actually quite easy. And there's no woo-woo.
No woo. So it's an app on your phone.
Well, it's more than an app. That's your. I was going to try and show it on here, but if I push the button,
That's the bow on the present. So it's
that's right. That's a good way to describe it. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a 7-week program that gets people into that mastery, and then having the app is what integrates people and why it's so wildly successful.
And it's not just 7 weeks. That's the starting, right? If you thought that being physically fit you just only have to do it for 7 weeks and nothing else afterwards, well, you would be an inaccurate assumption. Well, the same is true with mental fitness. It's shifting your thinking from, as Zig Ziglar would say, stinking thinking to possibility thinking. You know what's happened? Time has just evaporated. And I would like to have a takeaway from everybody. I was going to show how we can get hold of everybody. I'll do my best to put your banner link up here. But what's your takeaway? Who would like to start off?
Well, I took something away from all of you. So, Mickey, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're using the second brain. And Steve, you are helping your people be independent thinkers. And Joe, you are working with people in the mastermind, which is very, very powerful. And then Phil, you're working on your mental muscle.
I am. Thank you. Who's up next?
Well, I have a page of notes because there were so many things that everyone gave me, and I'm thankful for all of them. And what I also loved about what everyone gave was their story. I think it's really helpful for you to share your story and how you're doing it. So I'm really appreciative of just you bringing you to the story, and I love all of the language of the jump on the hero, that conversation, that a lot of the words that you guys use, I think, are just not just eloquent, but they're really inspiring. So I'm taking away new inspiration and new language from every single person. I have a whole page of notes. Thanks.
Cool.
I would say that for me, it's listening to Steve when I meet with people, especially in a discovery session, is to really ask them, what is your playbook? Do you have one, and what's the details to it, and how has it been working? And I think that's part of the whole process. What Steve is doing is having a playbook, and then also I really kudos Steve for being the mentor to work with the people there. So I think that's really important, that they have someone they can work with to fall back to in case they're having a question or an issue or something. I think those are all important.
Awesome. And Steve?
Well, first I'd like to, it's nice to meet everybody, and thanks, Phil, for the invite. Some of the things that I've taken away on this, I think Phil and I, we're gonna have a conversation for next year's training program, because there's a lot of information that was discussed in here that we can definitely use. So I just thank you for that very much.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And me, well, reminded some things, reminders like have a system, create a playbook, dialing for dollars, ideal prospect. Actually, I added to my nurturing program in the sales process is who is your ideal prospect? Who do you want to work with? Who is fun to work with? Who gives you a headache? Don't get one of the ones that are a headache. Give them to your competition. Might be a better fit. Not because they're miserable people. It's just, not everybody likes Coach Phil. I know. Who would have thought? But it's true. Ask questions. Have an SOP. Be curious. Selling is all emotional. Be empathetic. Well, I'm going to stop there just because we're running out of time. But I'm really grateful that you guys and gals were here to help this episode have the meat and potatoes. So to speak in the process as we went through this, it was really fantastic. Thank you for all taking your time to be here. I'm going to wrap this up for our guests. If you can
Bye, everybody.
See you later. Nice meeting you.
Nice
Thank
meeting you all.
you.
If you can all hang out, I'll be fantastic as I wrap this up. Well, I think that was brilliant. Those are brilliant minds. They made me a better guy today. So I really appreciate that. One thing I want to bring on here is that I would be remiss if I didn't. And I'm going to do it a little bit different. My video coach would give me heck because I put this right across, but there's a lot of people in here. So I think we should make wonderful really large today. So I have. So the you in wonderful represents you. You're unique and you're truly wonderful. Continue to act that way. And if you like what the show is all about, share it with your friends around the world. And if you're watching this on the replay, please hashtag replay. Let us know where you're from. And with that, I'm going to bring it to a wrap with this ending. So here we go.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through. I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.